Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Coming live from 1950 South Shepherd, Stongo, Oshkenyecha.
Tungunades, Chinda.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Natalie Harjo. I am Seminole Creek. I am a transplant from Seminole, Oklahoma to El Reno. I'm very
Hmm.
happy to be here. Very happy
Well,
to be here.
thank you for coming on. Always appreciate your service. Yeah.
To the community.
To the community.
I am I'm a guide dog,
Make some damn good goulash too.
a local cook. Hey.
Well, it's Mental Health Monday. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, which I think is very it's a great way to start off your year. There's a lot of topics. There's so many ways that I feel like we could start a discussion and see where it goes. And we don't have anything in particular that like we were still like scrounging around right before we were like, okay, we're ready. But is there anything you feel like is important enough to maybe shine some light on?
This morning's meditation, we were talking briefly, not so much about the meditation, but talking about the weekend and how connection and the difference in feeling from last year to this year and the confidence level. And I noticed that there was a change just in confidence level for some of the people, even in the Gord clan, that were coming to help. At first, it was more volunteer work. And then, like, hey, what do you want me to do? And then, like, now everybody's just kind of grabbing everything by the horns and just moving forward. And, mental health, when we talk about self confidence and self awareness, and we're so used to thinking that mental health is, I mean, we do talk about self care being a lot of things, and I know it's more of a buzzword than actual uh, description of what self care entails, but sometimes it's also allowing yourself to be in the front and lead when you're not used to leading.
Definitely.
And a lot of times that we feel like, oh, well, I'm not worthy of being a leader, in this realm. I don't know enough. But we are the first ones to put ourselves down with that. And, and we lack confidence in areas because we feel like that we don't have enough experience or we're going to mess it up and we're scared
Mm-hmm.
to mess up. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed this weekend. And the thing that triggered me is I had not triggered me, it was more of an enlightening thing. This weekend, I had a coworker that came with, and they were tabling at the dance. And shout out to Kristen. She, she had never been part of something like this. And it was something that she was so excited for like 2 weeks. And whenever it came time for us to come up and do our special as co-hosts, there were the ones of us that were kind of part of everything, the meat and potatoes part, our executive director. And then, anyway, we were all jumping up there, and I turned around and looked at her at the table and I said, come on. And she kind of like cowered a little bit, like what? And I was like, come on. So anyway, she comes up, she was like, I have no idea what to do. I was like, you literally have to do what we're doing right here. And all we were doing, was dancing. And I told her, I said, it'll come to you. It'll come to you. It's here. That's all I told her. I said, it's right here. And she was like, okay. And so we go around, and then like the more, and I kind of glanced at her a couple of times, and you could see her confidence level go from, oh my gosh, like she felt like, um,
I don't know how to do this.
she didn't feel like that she deserved to be out there even. Like, and I know a lot of times people deal with, the color of our skin really works against us a lot of times too, right? Like I automatically get credence because I'm dark. And I might not know everything, but I'm brown, and so people will ask me questions and they think that I should know. And then yeah, like I do use seasoning in my food. And so, but and I know that's a lot of it, we get that what is it called? Where you think that anyway, I'll think of the word.
Like, where's your buffalo?
Where's your buffalo? Where's your eagle feathers? And
You get
but
buzzed up
anyway,
and
so
beat
that
you up.
being said, I looked at her and you could see her going from like awkward, like right before we walked out there, I kind of said, she was like, "Do I just wrap this around me?" Talking about her shawl. She'd never had ever worn a shawl before. And I was like, all you do is, and I kind of told her briefly, I said, just make sure your shoulders are covered. You're in Cheyenne country, and make sure your shoulders are covered. And I said, and you can just wrap it around. Yeah, you're fine. I said, but if you want to look like a pro, and I kind of showed her how to drape it and everything. And so anyway, so she's kind of fumbling with her shawl. And then after we're out there, she's kind of, you could see her even from being slouched to by the time we were done, she was standing like proud and carrying herself. And I was like, that spoke to her right there. Just that confidence level, just that little bit. And as soon as we were done, we're going and they're doing the honor. We're all lined up on the other side, gourd dancing, and she's behind us. And then we do the giveaway. And by the time we're doing the giveaway, she has the biggest, brightest smile on her face. Like she got to do something she'd never even thought. Number one. Number two, she was invited in. And she loved it. Like that was the highlight of her evening. And she was telling me, my birthday is tomorrow. And this was like the best birthday present and celebration. Right. And so I thought that was cool. But like it just that little bit of speaking about how mentally a lot of us have to where we feel like that imposter syndrome. That's what I was looking for a little while ago. Imposter syndrome is deep. And it's not necessarily so much like I hear people already defeating themselves mentally saying, "Oh, well, that's not me. I don't know nothing about that. I can't help you because I don't know anything about that. I wasn't raised that way." But you know what? You might know something that you can contribute. And that is something that you need to be proud of. And most of the time we defeat ourselves before we even try to lift ourselves up. And this weekend was just at the dance, it was empowering to see the number of people there that were supporting. That was empowering to see some of those people you could tell they hadn't shook a gourd in a while and they went to borrow a gourd and they were just out there in just regular clothes, they just showed up not really expecting and weren't really, just out there. And I just thought this was an amazing thing for everybody to get together. It was good for mental health. It was good because they were a part of something, part of a moment, and you didn't know what everybody was thinking that night, but it touched so many people that now we had people like I had people getting a hold of me that whole evening, like, "Hey, can you help me with this? Did you make your dress? Did you make your moccasins? Did you make this?" "Yeah, I did." "No, I didn't." "I can tell you where to go." Blah blah blah. But it was, and people don't know me in this community, but they were bold enough to come up to me and say, "I want something like that." And that means they, number one, don't have it. Number two, they want it because they want to come back to that circle. And so mental health really was a big win this weekend, I think, because people felt welcome. They felt embraced. They felt like they had a place. And maybe a place that they hadn't had in a long time. And maybe they thought that they weren't good enough, or they were shamed because they stepped too far away for too long. And now they've kind of know where they want to come back to and what they want to do. And so I mean that really is the big thing that spoke to me was the coming back. Sometimes just that welcome, that welcoming handshake to come back into the ring and into the circle, into the arena. And that was a big thing, I think, for a lot of people that night. Like there was so much laughter. Like I was telling Anita the other day, Darian's aunt. Oh my God, we had a discussion on the evening about what felt different. And I said, everybody here happy. There's no complaints. There's no, I mean, we were laughing about things we would normally complain about, right? Like the bathroom thing, but I mean, even the food, like we were so worried that we weren't going to have enough food, and we ended up having enough food, and like it all worked out the way that it needed to, and it was all because we were in a good heart and good mind. It all worked out the way that it needed to. But I always know that whenever I feel like when I'm in a negative mood or in a negative mode, it affects my mental health that day, and then I ruin everybody else's day because I can't step out of my own way. And so that's really just a big part of it, is just sitting back and embracing and allowing that to happen and seeing where your lesson is for the day. And I can talk about this stuff all day, but we talk about whole person healing every time I'm on here, and spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. I checked in with myself a lot that evening because I was getting tired. My hip was hurting and my knee was pounding. And I mean, it was just a lot. But everything else balanced it all out, and that's all I was worried about, was how can I carry on the rest of this evening, being tired. And then the more I thought about it, the more I talked myself out of it. Like, I am perfectly fine. Like, I'm still moving. There were people out there in walkers, in wheelchairs, and it could have been worse. And I was sitting here, complaining about my hip popping every now and then. And so I was like, you know what? Mentally, what we used to do and what we do at our ceremony is, when you have the hardest time, when you can't stay up anymore, you feel like you can't stay up, because we dance through the night from nighttime till morning till the sun comes up. And when you feel like that there's just no more left, you look at the elders that are out there. You look at the people that no longer can dance and they wish they could, and you dance for them. And that's always helped me mentally to get through that, but it also makes me feel so like I did something. I did something for somebody else. I had to step out of my own way to say, I'm not good enough to dance for them, or am I dancing good enough, or enough? But whatever I did, it was coming from a good heart and a good mind. And so just mentally, just sit back. That's all I was really thinking about this weekend. And I mean, we can go anywhere with that, but yeah, I know. All right, bye. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Can I go? Yeah.
No, because they're
That
talking to
was
me.
that was the short version. That was
Ah,
the
boo.
short version. But I heard a few things in there. The fear part. The fear part definitely used to get me. I was fortunate enough to see a lot of this going on as a kid. I was always with my White Shield, from the Hill in Thomas, if you know the White Shield family over there, George, Robert, Benji, my Aunt Lou, all them, they, we was always going to benefit dances. But it seemed like that's where I started separating myself for going there for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like, and then when you feel disconnected, you know, uh, it's hard to figure out when's a good time to go back. Like how. And the one thing I figured out about my whole process is I'm the only one that's stopping me. I am getting in my own way, getting in my own head, and telling myself like, you're not worthy. You know, you should be a better person outside of this to and one thing that's crazy is I seen a lot of my relatives that stayed in that circle, stayed around that drum. You know, uh they'll tell you from the beginning, I'm not perfect. But I find my healing, being a part of that. And I thought the same thing for years. It was a couple years ago we were at the Sundance and I heard this lady speaking and she was, in tears and she was saying, I didn't think that I deserved to be where I'm at. I didn't feel like like you were saying, like I'm not worthy enough. And she went on to say, like, I was the only one telling myself that. And it just kind of clicked in my head, like wow, like I'm the exact same way. I was the only one telling myself that. You know, I think about how much it hurt me not to be a part of it. That probably hurt me more than being a part of it, and like, I don't know, messing up the ways that only I could mess up, by using or whatever. But I think that not having, like being a part of it today, like that's my identity. That's who I feel like I am, is that person, that's gourd dancing, that person that, has on my gourd clan shirt, and I'm with all my brothers, backed up by all my sisters, and like I feel like that's where I belong. But it took me most of my life to figure that out. And and then I started thinking about, the brother that was there, he was feeling good. You know, our people accepted him anyways. Nobody said, "Hey, you can't be here. Hey, don't do that." Like, hey,
They were just happy he showed
they were
up.
just happy he was there.
Hmm.
So like I think about that. I was sitting there thinking about that, like, wow, like our people are good to us, no matter what state we're in. No matter where we came from. Like, there's a lot of non-natives that you know show up, and they love that.
Hmm.
They love being a part of that.
Hmm.
And that's the great thing about, you know uh for me, is going to benefit dances and seeing one of them non-natives. I don't know, if man, my brother's father-in-law, his name was Frankie Gilbert. Man, he was a good man, a real good man, from Gary, Oklahoma. Had a lot of kids, but man, like, he was always being asked to be on head staff all the time. They called him the honorary CNA. But I mean, I got to spend a lot of holidays with them, because my brother's married to his daughter. So we'd always see him, after dinner. I'd be outside smoking, and he'd come out there, and we'd have a real nice conversation. Man, he was a real good guy. And I mean, it's just, I think that he's a great example of, how caring and loving that our people are. He felt like, he was definitely a part of that circle. And people love to see him coming. People, love to dance with him, have him on their head staff, like they were real honored by, Mr. Gilbert coming and shaking his gourd with them. So I think that's just like a great example of, you know, uh, the only person that can really stop you from getting out there is yourself.
We talk about that a lot too. How who told you that? Like, that's the thing that I have to tell myself. Like, who told you weren't good enough? Did anybody really tell you that? And in some cases, it was somebody in our family that might have said, "Oh no," I have a example of a friend that I know that who is a very light skinned Cherokee woman, and the rest of her siblings are darker skinned, fair. She's fair complected, and around a certain time of the year, they had their annual celebration, and they would dress up in their ribbon skirts or camp skirts or whatever it is they had on, and her grandma wouldn't let her because she was too light skinned, right? Like,
Wow.
and I remember for the longest time I would ask her, like, how come you don't wear, and like, who hurt you? Literally, who told you that you couldn't? And she was like, my grandma. Like, she literally was told that she was, like, they were kind of shamed of her color, and I was like, "Oh, you're a whole different example." Because normally I could say, "You told yourself that," right? Well, she learned it from her grandma, and she picked it up, and she continued with that, and so there was that imposter syndrome that was a trauma from when she was younger that still stuck with her. Now, as she got older, it became very apparent that she was very proud of her heritage, but she had imposter syndrome because she was told that she was not good enough, at one point. And I just think that's a shame, but we have so many things that we pick up, and you have to be careful how you talk to your kids. And even when you're joking, don't get me wrong. I know we're rugged and we talk to our kids some kind of way because my kids used to hear all the bad things because, like, I don't know. I didn't hold back on them.
Sorry, kids. I'm just regular.
I know we just would
Yeah.
joke with them really hard, but sometimes that stuff they take to heart. Like the one thing that I remember sticking with me is I played in the sun all the time. I'm already dark. I would get really, really dark in the summertime. And they would, tease me and stuff. And I remember my grandma pulled me to the side one time because I was really upset. I was raised with my uncles and my aunts. They were all years older than me, 10 years plus older than me. And I got teased really hard, and I remember at one time I was crying because my uncle just teased me until I started crying about something, and then it ended up being because I was dark. But I remember my grandma told me, my grandma said in the language, but it kind of loosely translates to, it's not your fault the sun loves you more than them. It's not your fault. It loves you more. You need it more. But the way that she told me, from then on, I didn't care how dark I got. I did not. I was like, I don't care." But I literally used to cover up, and in a blanket when we'd go to the lake, and because and I remember I was really young, and I thought sunscreen made you not get dark. Like I thought it blocked it from making. No, it didn't. Anyway,
Darker the berry. Yeah.
But I just know that stuff really does impact our kids, And we were talking the other day about how um, whenever you had Alani and she was carrying her little teeny tiny baby and she was going, "Oh, you're so heavy. You're so heavy."
Yeah.
And I was like, she learned that from someone. And I know Nova's a chunk. So I'm sure they probably say that when they're carrying Nova, your other grandbaby. And, because she is heavy.
Yeah, she's
And I'm
all
sure
there.
she probably hears it, but that's how they learn. And we were talking about, the teen violence thing. And Brittany and I were up here talking, and we were talking about how kids learn that when they're little, like when they're at daycare. When you force someone to share something, you make them, then it makes them put their feelings second. It doesn't validate what they feel. And that means, oh, well, I have to sacrifice my feelings and give this toy to this other kid who's screaming and crying because they don't have it and I just now got it, right? So there's that selfishness, there's that protective factor of us as a child, and then now we're being forced to share. So whenever we get older, we're being told that we have to give it away. And that's why a lot of times, sexual predators and people of that nature can take advantage of that mindset because it's been taught to us to give it away regardless of if how our feelings are. But anyway, so that being said, it's just, there's just so many places that we can go with all of this. Oh, I was going to go to the comments really fast. Can you scroll back a little bit, Darian? Okay, good afternoon. Okay, Janice Logan's on here. Oh,
Hey,
brother
Janice.
Josh. Stongo. Cassandra's on here. David Deer. Stongo Naditska. Your brother Drew.
Droopy drawers.
Brother Dave said, "Did you make Barry the honest man he is today?"
Yeah.
Cassandra said, "I was complaining because I had to leave. This was at Saturday night, but she needed to rest. Thank you for being there for me. You always give me a better sense of understanding. You also have to make time for self-care. Like, if you overdo it, we were talking about this, Leanna and I were talking about, if you overdo it and you constantly are on burnout because that's our codependent nature, is I got
Overdoed it. That's called overdoed it.
overdoed it.
Yeah.
You're going to burn out, and then you're going to build resentments. And what do we do when we build resentment and all of that stuff? As an addict, we turn to our addiction, and that's what causes a lot of people to do that. And if you hit burnout, um you don't have anybody there to help you and aren't supportive because you didn't self-care, then you get worn out, and a lot of times it weakens us, so we turn to that. So, but I told her, I was like, "You're tired." She had jet lag. She just got back from what, Colorado? And so I was like, "Go home and rest." Good words, Natalie. Oh, Meadow, Aho, Misty Hickson. You did wonderful, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Misty.
Thank you so much.
But ooh,
Meadow. Good afternoon, Brother Woody. Renee
Woody
Riggles.
Blaine.
Hello. Earl Plumley said, had good time. Aho.
Yes, thank you, brother.
Sharon Beard said, thank you for sharing. I just enjoy listening and learning about self-care. Self-care is always so hard.
The most important care.
It is. It's the most important because, like, on that airplane, the first thing they tell you to do, even if you have a baby in your arms, the first thing they tell you to do is when that mask comes down, you have to cover your face first, then the baby. Because if not, then you're both going to go. So you can't help anybody else if you can't help yourself first.
Self-care.
Self-care. Not my self-care is taking care of other people. That's codependency.
Yeah. There's a whole section for you in the Well Brady.
Yes, there's a whole few pages in the book and in the big book, and there are also coda meetings.
First time I read those codependency facts, I guess. Yeah, it spoke very loud to me.
Self-care is hard to do because culturally, a lot of times we're told to help everybody else before we help
Put
ourselves.
everybody else first.
You put everybody else first, especially in your prayers. It's even hard for me learning to pray as I got older. It was hard for me to pray for myself because that was seen as selfish. I wasn't even I was taught not even to pray too much. Like in a day, right? Like I already prayed in the morning. I already smudged. I already smoked off. I already prayed when I woke up. And then we prayed over meals and prayed for blessings and things like that. But after a while, they call that igujami. Like shimitambi mahognat is like when you get carried away, like when you get too sweet on something. But igujami means you're full in your head. Like you're worried more about yourself than anything else. And so like it's even selfish to pray too much in, sometimes in our culture, the way we were taught. So self-care was always not so much a culture or a part of what we were raised to do outside of ceremony anyway. In ceremony, you're supposed to, if somebody trips and falls, then even if you're going to hurt yourself to get to them, you at least make the attempt. You don't say, oh, well, my ankle hurts, so somebody else can pick them up. You don't do that because that's selfish. But so it was really hard for self-care. It's still a stumbling block for me because I am a codependent. So
Yeah.
you act like you weren't.
You don't catch me complaining.
How about whenever he got his monitor the other day? He's got a constant glucose monitor, CGM. And anyway, I came in there and I was like, did you check your sugar? He was like, no, will you check it for me?
I was asleep. I was asleep.
So I got his phone and scanned his arm, and
I went like that.
Yeah, he just rolled over.
I was dead asleep.
Whatever. You still could have checked it. Anyway,
codependency at its best.
At its finest.
On both ends.
I feel like I gotta fix everything. Everybody knows this, right? Like you feel like you got to be the one to fix everything. If you're a fixer, if you're the one in your family that everybody goes to because they know that you can help them out, if you are the rock and you feel yourself crumbling, I mean, I really heavily recommend that you look into codependency and look at that because codependency is actually an addiction.
Yes.
If you are that person in your family that everybody turns to, not necessarily for gas or, money or, sometimes that too, but like, I don't know what to do and you're the one. And I remember asking my grandma one time, my grandma, I said, because she was the person that everybody went to. And even if all she did was have words to, to help out the situation, they would turn to her anyway. And she was the oldest daughter, and I'm the oldest granddaughter. I'm the oldest daughter. So I'm the oldest of the oldest of the oldest. So, but I remember asking her, what do you do if you're the rock of the family? What do you do when the rock begins to crumble? And then because the minute that you don't have your stuff together and you see, they see you broken, then they're like panicked because, oh no, now you're broken. Then who do I go to after that? That's codependency. Because then you have guilt. Then you are sad because you couldn't fix it. And then you automatically feel like you're not good enough or you didn't do your job when sometimes it's not your job to do. That's where you need to lean on your creator, lean on your higher power, lean on your, with us, we lean on, our 12 steps and our recovery. Because if not, then it could cause me to spiral out of control in my mental health and it just goes bad. But then you also model that and teach that to your kids. So not like my girls, they saw it for the longest time. Well, my boys too, that they're the ones in their friend groups. They're the ones in their cousin groups that everybody turns to because they know that they're going to have something. Then they come to me and be like, I don't know why they always come to me. I'm like, start telling them no. Hey. But Brittany, I think that's a wonderful idea. Brittany Levi said, I really think we should start a CODA class. I completely. This is what not to do. But like I will be really self-aware. Sometimes Barry go, I'll be a real codependent right now. And I'll go, I know. You show right. But yeah, so this
I mean, that would be good. I mean,
because codependency is real and people don't understand
in
it.
Indian country,
It's
if you don't know what codependency is, Google that joint right now. Codependency. And there's like not, I mean, maybe within the past 10 years, they've been gathering like more data, more info, doing more, experiments or seeing results of, some different situations. But I mean, it's kind of like a new thing. And once
old
you,
thing at the same time.
yeah, an old thing, but it's just part of that mental health thing. I one time I went to a CODA meeting and I had to catch a meeting, for that day. So I just like walked in and sat down and started noticing like there's a bunch of women in here. And I'm just like, uh-oh, like I look at somebody's like, is this a woman's meeting? And they're like, nah, you're okay. I was like, well, good. Then I hear them talking about codependency. And I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely at the wrong meeting. I was going to get up and leave.
Well, I always what the first thing that really hit me is whenever I started, hearing about it, dealing with my mental health recovery and everything, is if your mood depends on someone else,
Someone
if
else's
your
actions.
happiness depends on someone else's actions, that is a big red flag, right? And I remember thinking I could be everybody happy and then the one person in the room be sad and I would be sad for that person or upset with that person. And then it went into my relationships, if
Did.
I mean
Yeah.
past relationships, let me say that. No longer relationships. But anyway, it would happen and I would think, I had to be happy if that person was happy. I wasn't allowed to not be happy because if I was sad, then it invalidated the situation. And so I went through a whole lot of stuff to where I forced it and faked it till I made it. Right. And so, but I would make sure that I was reliant because on the things that I can control to make me comfortable, I had to make someone else comfortable. And if I was worried about someone else being comfortable, then I was denying my own stuff. And it just reeked of codependency. And if you are privy to the Red Road to Wellbriety book, there's a whole section, almost a checklist.
Yes.
And
For the family.
absolutely go through the whole family. And you would be absolutely, you might not be surprised, but you will be surprised that even though a lot of times we talk about, recovery and addiction, that people don't realize that codependency is an absolute addiction.
It's an actual, yes.
It-
Make you just as sick as
we're only as sick as
anything
our
else.
secrets, and it's a sickness that you cannot shake sometimes. And then the minute that you see that, oh, I check all of these things off the list, it almost is like a defeating feeling, like, oh, I've been
Yeah.
doing this the whole time.
I just thought I was crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
And who did this to me? Most of us did it to ourselves.
Yeah, sometimes it's a learned behavior,
Yeah.
sometimes, but then you add on to that.
Well, yeah, because my mom was in a very abusive relationship for a really long time, and you know, it, we had to step and fetch to keep that person happy. And if that person was not happy, then we all paid for it. So, what did you do to not rock the boat? You set your own feelings aside, your own happiness aside, and and had to do that. And so, it was a learned behavior because whenever I kept telling myself, I'm never going to do this, I'm not going to be in a relationship like this. And where was I? In the same relationship that my mom was in for a long time. And I didn't rock the boat. I didn't want to rock the boat. I had to make sure that that happiness was what, was our status quo. And it didn't matter how unhappy I was. Some
Yeah,
to
for sure.
realize that, oh,
You know,
go ahead. It's back on.
there's been so many instances like where, especially in recovery, like people go into detox, people go into rehab. I mean, people are swear up and down that they're gonna find the love of their life in detox. You know what I mean? They're probably like 2 weeks sober, and just because that person came in having the same exact feeling, like I feel lost, I feel alone. Like I'm dealing with all these different emotions. Oh, you too? Come here.
Trauma bond.
Yeah,
It's a
you
trauma
definitely
bond.
find that trauma bond.
Hmm.
And it's crazy because that makes you notice, like, damn, like, am I trying to do that too? Like,
Hmm.
you know, like, 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 it made me guess, second guess about, like, I really need to be careful with, moving in that way. You know, you see so much of that in the recovery world. And I'm not gonna knock anybody that things have worked out for, or but
Right. But
nine
that's,
times out of
yeah.
10, you know, uh,
I mean, a
that
broken
that causes another relapse.
a broken clock is still right twice a day, right?
Yeah,
So sometimes it works out, but not that's
twice a
not
day.
yeah, at
Yeah,
least twice a year. Hey, no, just fine. But
twice in the morning. Yeah.
I don't know where that was going, but like you knew where. You know what's going on. But I mean, yeah, it's surprising. And I know that that was one of the biggest epiphanies for me. You know what epiphany means? Hey, no, I'm just playing. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
no, I don't.
No, I don't. Spell it.
EPI.
Yeah. But anyways,
The biggest thing that really popped off for me whenever I was learning, my own self-awareness was my codependency, the need to fix everything that was happening. Um, my aunts and uncles lived with my grandparents their entire lives, almost their entire lives, but almost my grandparents' entire lives. And it's because my grandma and grandpa did not care if they left ever because they wanted their kids around them, right? That's how our families were raised. Entire families in one house, and that's why we were such a close, tight knit family of cousins and family. But I also, in my adulthood, realized that that was because I'm the same way. Like, I am perfectly fine with my adult children living at home. And I would, add on rooms if they're going to get married. Like, I would love for them to stay at home their entire lives, but that's my codependency. I don't wanna let them go. I don't want them to go out into this world and then fail like I did so many times, and so that's me trying to control a situation that I have no control over, and so but that little things like that showed me codependency is really rampant. Like, that helps me to
definitely.
control the scenario and the situations, and I don't like to relinquish that control. And what do we do in recovery? We have to relinquish all the control, and I have to live that if I'm going to talk it.
Acceptance, radical acceptance.
Radical acceptance is absolutely correct because no way, no way do I want to let them go into this world and hurt the way that I did. Not even a little bit. Radical acceptance is tough.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, what else?
I don't know.
Talk.
How was your mentality this weekend? How did you feel like it went mentally?
Um,
You what was it? What was good
I
for
was a
you?
little overstimulated. I'm not gonna lie.
You know, you're absolutely right. That's a good discussion right there. Why were you overstimulated?
Well, because I'm blind as a bat,
Right?
and there's a few times, like I thought people would be messing with me. You know what I mean? And like remember when I almost ran over the little kid?
Mm-hmm.
And then like I'm thinking like, okay, I see Dave, I'm gonna get by him. No, keep going. I see Terry, no, keep going. And they all start yelling, keep going, keep going. You know what I mean? And I think they're messing with me. And every time I turn around, it's like, and I almost ran over a little kid.
And what is that? That's a trust issue, right?
Well, I mean, you know, uh,
Well,
I
yeah.
was I was like so overstimulated.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not gonna gore dance until I can see again.
That might be a bit extreme,
I mean,
but
but
I get it. I get it.
it's just like embarrassing on my part. I
Yeah,
feel like
there it is right
for
there.
me, for
There
me,
it is.
and but at the same time, I like to see people enjoy themselves.
Mhm.
I like seeing my community come together like that, and of course, I want to be a part of it, but I don't know, like I just feel like it's a lot. It's a lot for me to want to be out there, and I know people are going to be like, "Oh, it's no big thing," but I mean, I just it's hard for me. It's still a little bit hard for me to
And
like
even if you could see,
form a Congo line.
yeah, even if you could see, you would have been overstimulated because there's a lot of people there, and you're not a lot of people kind of person, right? A lot of us aren't. Like there are times, well, yeah, like I'm good after 4 or 5, and then we're gone. Brother David said, "Dang, slicing my brother up right now." Listen, I'm just trying to help him get where we're going. Should have listen. I'm just trying to get
Let
spit
it
it
go to
out.
Tennessee kick in.
Spit it out. Spit it out. Because sometimes you just got to say the thing, right? Say the thing. It might hurt for
but but
self awareness.
that's
Be
kind of where
honest.
I'm at.
Yeah. So you're that
I feel like
overstimulated.
that's part of my self care
Yeah.
is to just maybe just sit there, and enjoy it. I mean, before I had my surgery, like honestly didn't even feel like moving.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So now like I'm to the point where, like I have good days and I have bad days with my vision.
Mhm.
It goes in and out, in and out, in and out. But if anything, I'm learning to walk by faith and not by sight.
Mhm.
And sometimes I got to keep remembering that, like the creators. I have all faith in the creator, and sometimes I get in my own head and get in my own way. You know what I mean? Like I start thinking like man, it's just how a person would talk to themselves.
Mhm.
You
Negative
know,
self talk.
yeah, that self talk, and but when it's all said and done, I'm just like, like maybe just for a little while, maybe like take a month off or something and just chill for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and that's fine because that's your prerogative to do so. And to force it into anything would be to make other people comfortable, not you. And you'd be denying your own comfort. So I get it completely. But it's nice to be honest so you can get to that point, right?
Yeah, so I'll probably just be in raffles. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Go
sit up
sit
in
by
the
my brother
corner.
Earl.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
sit in the
I'm gonna
corner.
buy tickets before Earl and then buy them after.
So you can have a better chance
Yeah.
of winning a TV.
My brother always lucky as hell.
I
I know he's gonna always win, bro.
don't know. He
Cause
always
he's living
wins.
right. That's why.
That's just good
My
living.
brother
Man,
is
that's
living
just good
right.
living. Yeah, but that honesty right there, that whole trickery right there, the doing it to yourself. But you do need to honor your own feelings and getting there. Sometimes it's just being honest with yourself. And I was overstimulated, but I do get overstimulated because so many people, so many things going on. We had to make sure that we had food, and we were co-hosting, so because I work with Southern Plains Travel. Yeah, host and co-host. And so Brother Earl said didn't get Cedar Box though. Sad face. Sad face.
You know it's
Always
coming.
the next one.
Oh, we was
Almost
gonna
won an
give
award
Mingo an
today.
award
12
today.
minutes short.
Ah, one of these days, she's gonna
One of
be here
these
till
days,
5.
yeah, it'll be all right. He'll make it one of these days. Cecilia Little Creek said, "Hey y'all."
What
Joanne
up,
Black,
Cito?
hello.
How you doing, Joanne? Well, I mean, other than that though,
Other than that, I think we kind of went off the cuff there for a while.
yeah.
So it'll be all right. But Mental Health Monday, what's your final thoughts today for mental health?
My final thoughts would be, that fear part that we were talking about. How are we addressing it? Are we addressing that in a healthy way? Because fear comes in many different forms. That understanding that that's where most of my life was spent, was in the fear side of everything. That's why I used. That's why it was easier to fear things. It actually takes a little bit of work, to get on the face side. Because when I think about a negative in my life, I think about, well, what's the opposite? What would be the opposite of fear? And to me, that would be faith.
Mhm.
In this process that I'm going through with my vision, where somebody literally has to lead me around. And if I've learned anything, it's to walk by faith and not by sight. And that's where I found my peace. That's where, if I gotta pray, like I gotta, if I start letting my feelings get the best of me, I gotta pray that the Creator removes these because I know what it can turn into. I understand what it means to sometimes I just feel helpless,
Mm.
in some situations, and I can harp on that. I can get into that. Like I know if I let it, that can take over my life.
Mhm.
If I sit there and I feel sorry for myself. So what I think about the opposite of that is my faith. I've really learned how to lean on my faith, and just that self-care aspect, that we were talking about. It is okay to not be okay. Overstimulation does happen, but it's just a feeling, and feelings aren't the truth. Just like a bad day, it too shall pass.
Temporary.
It's a temporary thing, and thankfully through prayer, I've been able to manage those things safely and in a healthy way, and I don't feel like I got to use because of any of it. So
Meadow. I think if I had a final thought, is what we were just talking about, is self-talk. I know we talk about it a lot, but I do remember at a time in my life where I didn't trust anybody in this world because I had so many things happen to me as a child, meaning, molestation. I was raped as a teenager. All of these bad things that happened to me, right, whenever I was growing up. And there were adults around me that should have protected me in my head, right? I should have been protected. So I developed this distrust for everybody because somebody should have been there for me. And so the only person that I could trust was myself. I'm the only person I believed. And so, what I told myself and how I told myself, of course, I'm going to listen to me. So, that framed in the whole self talk thing, if I tell myself I'm a piece of crap, or, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm such an idiot, and I would say choice words, I'm such an idiot. Even if I'm just joking, somewhere in my soul, I'm still wounding my own soul by saying, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I freaking forgot that again. And then you already defeated yourself because I'm the only person I believe. And so instead of talking to myself that way, I have to reframe now. And I do it with intention because I need to know that whenever I say those things, that I know I can say the other thing, then I go ahead and say the other thing. You know what? I know it's not my fault that I woke up late. It is kinda, but it's not gonna make me a piece of crap, right? So, I also have the chance to do what? Start over. That moment has passed. And one of my kids' least favorite things that I say is, "It's fine. Tomorrow will be a new day." Is if you get to wake up, if you're on that list the next day, right, in the morning, then you got a whole nother chance to be better than you were yesterday. And so self-talk is so important and we're quick, even in joking. If you talk to yourself that way, Don Coya says, if you talk to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself, or if your best friend talked to you the way you talk to yourself, would you still hang out with them? Now, I did have a bunch of rugged friends, so I probably did talk to,
Yeah, they're all my cousins.
yeah, that's well, cousins don't count. I was
Brother.
always told they don't
Yeah.
count if they're not your friends if they're your cousins. But he would say that, he said, if your best friend talked to you the way you talk to yourself, would you still hang out with them? Probably not. So when you talk to yourself, also think about what you say to yourself. Would you want your kids to say that to themselves? It really put it into perspective for me whenever my own children started, because I model for them, right? We model for our kids and all the people around us. And that's really a big thing. We need to be very self-aware of our self-talk. And hey, Maria, first time listener. Well,
Aho,
you both did
aho.
great, and I enjoyed your message. Wonderful.
Thank
Come
you.
back.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Mado.
But that's all I have. Final thought.
What are you making for dinner?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That coat is kicking back in.
What are we eating? Yesterday I said, "What do you feel like eating?" I said, I don't he goes, "I don't know." I said, "I'm gonna go look and see what we have." So I said, we can do goulash." And he goes, "And fried potatoes and cornbread."
and
I was like, "I guess, let me go see." So we had this big
I'm
old
spoiled.
giant
I'm
meal.
very spoiled. Mind
But the
you.
girls came over to eat too, so that was cool.
Yes.
But yeah, codependency.
Yes. At
Look
its
it up.
best. At its best right there.
Red
Yeah.
Road to Wellbriety. You can find that book on whitebison.org
Yes.
in the Wellbriety store. Definitely has a giant section on codependency. And I absolutely encourage anyone to look it up because you'd
Yes.
be surprised, even if you
Google.
think you're not
Google
in an addiction.
codependency.
Yeah, just Google it. You'll see, like, holy crap, this is all me. Um, it sneaks by the radar a lot.
Yeah. Somebody's codependency lets it sneak by.
Miss Sharon Beard said, I can relate with you, Natalie. I'm my worst enemy. Through my recovery, I'm learning to love myself and breaking cycles and changing many thank yous. God is so good to me. You are absolutely right
Thank you
because
for sharing that.
I am my own
Thank
worst
you
enemy.
for sharing, Sharon.
Yeah. Sharon, thank you for sharing, Sharon. We appreciate you always being here too, Sharon.
Yes, thank you, Miss Beard.
All right.
Well, I believe that's it. No. Bet you Drew knows exactly what I'm talking when I do that.
Tell him about Roger real quick.
Oh no, no.
I just want to hear it.
We will see you all in the morning. We will be back tomorrow. Like, share, follow, tell your mammy about us. We appreciate all the comments, all the interaction. We appreciate all of it, and we will see you in la mañana. Aho.